We're going to start this morning with our hospitality raffle, because everybody seems to have fun with that. So we thought we would start with something fun. So, I'm looking for bunny ears and a hat. Are they in here yet? Maybe we're not going to start with that. Okay, we'll move on because we want to keep going. Roz and I just have one quick announcement to make to you. Let me go back. You don't need to read this while I'm doing that. We are starting a new one-time project. We've agreed to do a one-time project, which is to purchase rose bushes to be placed in a couple of beds up at the Veterans Memorial that's on Mount Soledad. And you'll be seeing pictures of that, and you'll be hearing more about that in the Spindrift. But we wanted you to know that Roz and I were up there yesterday. We saw where the beds are going to be. We heard about who's going to be caring for these roses. And so stay tuned for pictures of that. Last month, when we were voting on bylaw changes, I managed to drop this slide, which was the accompanying standing rule change. So we're asking you to vote on this, which was the companion piece to it. And this has to do with standing rule number 13, and the essential change to it is that new members could enter year-round. As many of you know, our club has dwindled a bit, we think in response to COVID and changing priorities, and it's time to build it up again. And we've found that there are people who move into our community or find out about our club who go to other clubs because we're only available once a year. So this opens up our membership for an annual change. So this is the motion in front of you. It was made and seconded, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm calling for a vote. So all those in favor? Thank you. I'm going to say the ayes carry it. Cheryl Lester. Where are you, Cheryl? Oh, here she is. She's going to come make a membership report, just a brief membership report? Yes, now. Cheryl, God love her, stepped into the breach. We're thrilled. And she's taking over this with a great deal of enthusiasm, which we need.
Good morning. Hi, Annie. Welcome. I was asked to help with membership, and I'm delighted to. I'm so fond of this club, and it's my pleasure to help where needed. I realized that I was a little bit late in getting started. I needed a little time to get caught up, but I am, and I'm ready. And so the forms are online on the website as of this morning. And I also will be at the meetings with hard copies of paper. And then, as you all know, there's also PDF forms you can print out if you don't want to do it online, but you just want to print it out at home and fill it out and send it to me. So it's the same system that you have done in the past, just a new person. And you can also call me. Look me up in the book, Cheryl Lester, and I'm happy to help. You do not need a passcode. It's going to be just when you click onto our website, it'll be right there. But if you get stuck in any way, just give me a call and I'm happy to help. Thank you. Oh, sorry, one important thing. Because I was late getting started, I have extended the renewal 1 month because I needed some extra time, so I'm giving you guys extra time. So June 1st, I'm asking for everything to be in so that we can set up the yearbook and get started with our behind-the-scenes work. As I said, I'll be at the next few meetings with paperwork and to answer any questions you have. But thank you for doing it.
Okay, so now that the hat and the bunny ears are in the room, and so we're going to make the announcements for the first raffle, which is the hospitality raffle. So ladies, if you have a raffle ticket from the hospitality raffle that is 384-271 or 241, please come down. Anybody got those? Yes, come on down, yeah. Two more before I move on to two more numbers. Okay, 243 and 245. We found two? Awesome. Yes, choose whichever one you want, yes. Okay, shall I go on? Okay. Now we're going to go on to the nominating committee report with the announcement of the 2023-24 slate of officers. Is Sue Kalish? Here she is, right on the front row. Partners in crime are arriving.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all. Can you all hear? There's the short issue going on, too. Can you all hear me? We are so delighted to announce the slate for next year. And I'm going to start with our co-presidents, the sisters, Marilyn Dronenberg and Maureen McMahon. Would you all just step up here so we could see you? That's fine. That's fine. We are so fortunate. Workshops, and I didn't see them, is Tanya Daly and Lauren Sorkin. Is Lauren here? Where's Lauren? There's Lauren.
There she is. Come back.
Can you, Lauren, can you pop up here, please? We want to see you. So I have to tell you, when I was talking to Lauren and she accepted, she goes, I am so excited. I was in the bathtub thinking of ideas, and by the time I got out, the water was cold. So we have a treat ahead of us next year. Recording Secretary Mary Lippman. I haven't seen her, and Donna is not here either, but they're going to do a great job. And our corresponding secretary is Mary Rule, right here. So thank you all.
Treasurer.
Oh, and treasurer. You know what? I am so sorry. This is not well, it is an oversight, but it's not for any reason other than being so grateful that Cindy is doing it again. And
Yeah,
Cindy,
she's right there.
Cindy, thank you so much. A million, thank you. Thank you, stand up, and I apologize. So I'm like sheepishly, Cindy, can you be treasurer again? And she's like, of course. So yay, Cindy, thank you for doing this. You will notice that we have a gap, and the gap is in programs, and which is such an important job. And we are busily sort of rethinking the job. We will have a vice president for programs, and I see Jean right there. I know how hard you've worked. I know how hard Devonna worked. Cheryl worked, and Susan as well. So we're thinking of maybe approaching it more as a committee, that we'd have people in place to really help. So we're working on the vice president for programs, as well as the putting together a committee, because there's a lot of people that said, yes, I want to help. If you said that, we will remember. So we will find you. And now I just want to say one thing. This is off the record. When I was asked to chair nominating, I did it, and then I had some personal and family problems that were really difficult for me to really do the job that I needed to do. So Devonna very graciously stepped in to help me, and I am so, so grateful. But for those of you new to the club and who have been here for a while, that's what's so important about this club and so very special, is that there are people that have your back. So it makes a world of difference that you're just not hung out there to dry all by yourself. And I know that as we go to the next year, Marilyn and Maureen will be calling you. And remember, if you take a job, and hopefully you'll be able to do it, say yes. And if something happens, you'll have someone that you know or even don't know that is willing to come in and help you. So with that, I'm going to turn this over to Devana.
I'm super excited about this slate. We are in such good hands. These women are already working. And I also echo what Sue said. I encourage you to say yes to them. You will enjoy your association with them immensely. I promise. Also, I wanted to say that 2024 will be our 50-year anniversary of this club. We were founded in 1974. So with that, we are really excited about events. We're going to bring back Meet the Masters and some exciting field trips. And with the new bylaw changes, the membership, you can sponsor more than one member. So think of only your special friends and think of sponsoring them. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Is Susan, Susan Geyer's here.
Is Susan Geyer here to give us a report on how the orchid field trip went? No. Okay, we will move on then. And we do have a report on workshops, which Elaine and Jeannie so kindly said that we could just give the report so we could move on quickly. So the Spring Backyardia Roadsidea workshop is on April 19th from 1 to 3 o'clock. And if you haven't already signed up, the email deadline for signing up is April 3rd. And all the details are present in the Spindrift that you already received this month. Let's move on to a garden tour report. Maureen and Marilyn.
Well, hi, everyone. Maureen and I want to report that the garden tour is on April 20th and is in full swing. All our preparations, everything's going great. And with all the rain, the garden should look particularly lovely. And I think the roses especially will be really showing off, so that'll be fun. We want to remind April 20th. I'm sorry. Oh, it's
the wrong year.
Oh, okay. Thank you. April 20th. Anyway, we want to remind you that there will be a light lunch served at one of the gardens. And Maureen and I did a little test run of the menu on Sunday, and it's very yummy, and we're going to have a pretty presentation of it. So that will be fun and make it extra special. And everyone that has signed up for the tour will be getting an email in early April, and that will, in the email, you will get your addresses for the gardens and your start garden. And so we want to kind of divide and conquer all our guests, and so that will mitigate some of the parking problems and any crowding, and we really encourage you to carpool. So, and there is still time to sign up if you want to sign up on Sign Up Genius with the club. And then guests are also welcome. They just have to pay a little bit more. Let's see. And when you get that email, it will also have the suggested itinerary. Maureen and I feel like the Village Garden Club is like our gardening family. And so for this tour, we hope that there will be the full family will be in attendance, all our members. And we think it's going to be a beautiful day, and we encourage you not to miss it, and it's going to be a lovely family affair. So please come. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn. And I'm sorry about the date, you know, when you're typing late at night and you're old. Janet. Oh my gosh, Janet, this morning your crew was in full force. It was so exciting. Oh, here she comes.
I am delighted that you are all here to see the fabulous art that our members produce. Now, I hope that you will go back in and sign up to interpret some of those pieces of art. 9 have already been taken. So there's plenty left, and they're all fabulous. If you have signed up, please come by the expressions table before you leave, because I have instructions and pictures and all kinds of stuff for you. So thank you for being here.
And our May luncheon. And there's Marianne with her panda.
I've seen everyone laughing at my panda. So it's the Marianne Driscoll, Deanna Lombroso team once again. We did the May luncheon last year. And so we're looking forward to it again. And you've probably seen in the Spindrifter, we are all really fortunate to have Joan Embry as our speaker. And if you grew up in San Diego or have lived here any length of time, you know that she was affiliated with our incredible San Diego Zoo for many, many years, and now she's doing environmental conservation. And so that inspired our theme with the zoo animals and the natural vegetation and that sort of thing. People were signing up today. We already have, I don't know, maybe a dozen, and you can sign up over. We'll be at the table afterwards, and there's a little form you can take and mail in, or you can go on our website, the Village Garden Club website, and do Sign Up Genius, if you'd like, or you can pay cash or check today. Oh, yes. And we tried to do it a little more economically. Poor Deanna did the form like 4 times, because we started at $40 like last year, and that doesn't even pay the caterer. So then we went to $45, and that doesn't pay for any of the things, the decorations and things. So Deanna has been very gracious in underwriting things in the past, which we appreciate very, very much. So you can sign up, and it's the last meeting of the month, and like I said, Joan Embry will be the speaker. So we hope that you'll all sign up today. You have next month, and like I said, you can sign up online. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to quick do another raffle, and then our speaker is going to start. So, you're in charge of this.
I get to read out numbers again. Okay, so the last 4 numbers on the red tickets, and well, first of all, I should say that the prizes are the beautiful flower arrangement that Chris McGregor did for us this week that was on the refreshment table and is down below here. there is a book by Golden Haywood, who was our speaker last month, that Karen Mayer had signed and is kindly donating as one of the prizes. And also there's a book from our current speaker this month that is also here. So starting off, last four numbers, 6990, 7022, and 6993. 7022. We have two people. Do you want me to read those numbers again? Okay. 6990, 7022, and 6993. Okay, I'm going to read one more. 7018. 7018. Going, gone. Okay, one more. 7053. 7053. Yeah? Introduction, all right. And finally, we get to the most exciting part of the morning. We're going to have Jean Collins come up and introduce our speaker for today.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you all out, regardless of what the weather brings. It's my pleasure to introduce our speaker today. Cara Newport is the Chief Executive Officer of Filoli, which many of you may know is a 654-acre estate nestled along the slopes of Northern California's coastal range. Opened to the public in 1977, it features a 54,000 square foot Georgian revival-style mansion, 16 acres of English Renaissance gardens, a 6.8-acre orchard, and hundreds of acres of natural lands with 5 distinct ecosystems. Cara has an extensive history in working with public gardens. She completed her undergraduate degree in botany at Miami of Ohio University and her graduate degree through the Longwood program in public horticulture, which we all heard about from Paul, whatever his name is. That's the CEO of Longwood Gardens. Thank you for laughing. She was a senior development professional for Winterthur, the Philadelphia Zoo, and the Franklin Institute. For 10 years, she served as director of Daniel Stowe Botanical Garden in Charlotte, North Carolina. And while there, she led the development of an orchid conservatory and a children's garden. Cara has been with Filoli since 2016. Through her work with Filoli, she is actively involved with the National Trust for Historic Preservations, the American Association of Public Gardens, and the American Alliance of Museums, and many other, more too numerous to name. Please join me now in welcoming Cara Newport.
Okay. And I'll leave. I think, can you hear me already? Yeah? I think we're good.
Okay, it's just down.
Thank you.
And you know where the pointer is. Okay.
Great, thanks. I'm going to stand up here a little bit. Everyone can still see? Okay, great. Well, I'm so thrilled to be here. You have such an impressive club. I've done a few of these, and this is really an amazing thing you have set up here. The art today is beautiful, and you have such an impressive lineup of speakers. And I was saying earlier, if you are brave enough to take that program position, I will gladly give you my card and connect you to speakers all over the world. So, so sign up. I am absolutely delighted to share the Filoli story with you. I know many of you have been. Can I see a show of hands? How many have been to Filoli? About 2/3. That's really great, and what a wonderful gym it is. I've been there since 2016, and we've made some changes during that time period. But of course, it's this beautiful historic core, this historic center that we're able to build around. So our mission is that. Our mission is to connect this rich history with a vibrant future through beauty, nature, and shared stories. And so these stories that we've been collecting and learning more about are some of the things I'm going to share with you today. So I hope you all leave, even if you've been before, with some new information and new reasons to love Filoli, and hopefully a reason to bring your whole club up as part of your 50th year celebration. I think that'd be great, right? So Filoli's located on the peninsula of San Francisco, between San Francisco and San Jose. This is what the peninsula looked like in about 1917, about the time that Filoli was created. So you can see here, this is the Crystal Springs Lake, and in the background you can see the bay. So it's between the bay and the ocean. It's just such a beautiful piece of property. Our first peoples at Filoli were the Ramaytush people, and we've been learning more about the stories of the place, not just as it is today, but our history very, very deep. And what we've learned, the Ramaytush were agrarians. They were us. They were horticulturists. They were planting. They were cultivating plants. They were using the marshlands. Filoli is located on historic marshlands as transportation. They revered the acorn, and it was used both as a food source and as a cultural center, and they had a lot of festivals around the acorn. So they were really land carers, and I have another story I'll share later. But it's interesting, when the Spanish colonists came, they thought that's what the land looked like, right? They didn't really understand that this whole peninsula had been really cared for thousands of years. So I love this, because you can see off in the distance here, they think that under all those redwoods it was just cleared naturally. You know, you think that that's the way it might have looked, and it wasn't. But the agricultural history continued with the Spanish colonists, and the area that Filoli's on was then used as a food location, as growing location for the Mission Dolores, located in current-day Presidio in the city. So this long agricultural history really starts to emerge. The Spanish pretty quickly realized that they can't do all this themselves. They need help. And so they reached out and encouraged the Mexican rancheros to come in with land grants. So the Spanish colonists gave land grants to the Mexican rancheros. And the first land grant that was Filoli was 13,000 acres, and it was given to John Coppinger. And this is actually the original land grant here. And John Coppinger, with the name, you can tell he was an Irish expat in Mexico who had the land grant. And there's an interesting Irish connection in many ways with Filoli. So he was an Irishman, and he married Maria Luisa Soto, pictured here with her children. And I love, being a woman and a professional woman, I love that Maria Luisa Soto is one of the first women to inherit land by Mexican law. So the Mexican laws had just changed, and she was able to inherit the land when her husband, John Coppinger, passed away. So he passed away not long after they were married. She married a second Irishman, John Greer, And she and John Greer managed this 13,000-acre property, and they moved away from the a kind of agriculture to logging. So I think there's a lot of assumption that logging happened after the San Francisco earthquake, but it actually had started before then. Hence the names Redwood City and Woodside, which were kind of located right in the middle of. And so the Greers owned the land for many years. They also had a tannery on the property, and then they. When they finally sold the property, when the family sold the property, it was the children that sold the property. They sold it to land developers. So this turned into a development story. That timed with the emergence of San Francisco. So San Francisco, of course, burst onto the scene in the gold rush, and so the gold rush happened. San Francisco becomes a cosmopolitan Western town, like many of the ones around here, and gold is very much part of our history. So William Bowers born. His father owned Grass Valley Mine, and that's what's Empire Mine in Grass Valley, and that's what's pictured here. So the Empire Mine in Grass Valley was his gold mine. It went dry when William Bowers born was in his 20s. He came back to run that mine, and thus, kind of the first intersection between Filoli and the San Francisco development. So as this happened, the peninsula, San Mateo County, became, the center of the new development. So this is, you wanted to get out of the city, you came to San Mateo County. And this is San Mateo, this is the San Mateo train station. You can see all the people in their finery coming down. And of course the developers are there with all these land offerings as a way to build your country estate. So William Bowers born took advantage of that. So this is William Bowers born and Agnes born. They purchased the land in 1915, not accidentally with its location. In addition to Empire Mine, and I'll share in a minute, William Bowers born had a long history of buying land near his businesses. So this was part of the direction that he wanted to go in. They bought it when they were a little bit older. This was their retirement home, but they did. It was William Bowers, his wife Agnes, and their daughter Maud was part of the history as well. But before that, William Bowers, he first invested in the Grass Valley Mine. That was his family. His second investment was wine. This is the Wine Collective in St. Helena, which is the modern day Culinary Arts Institute. Most of you might have seen it or heard of it, but it was first developed as a wine collective. So he was for the growers. He was really trying to give the growers a way to get a better price in San Francisco, because growers had to grow wine, pick wine, sell wine. They couldn't grow grapes, pick grapes, sell grapes to make wine. They couldn't hold the grapes. So he built this wonderful location for them to store their wine, store their grapes so they could sell it to get better pricing. And so it was kind of a start of a trend with him, and he really wanted to see everybody be successful. Of course, he made his own money on it, but he wanted the region to really be successful. So he was instrumental in this development of San Francisco. And then that led to his next enterprise, which was water. So gold, wine, and water. He really had this all figured out. And so after the 1906 earthquake, he bought a primary holding in Spring Valley Water Company, which was that first picture, and also this picture, that Crystal Springs Lake and the Crystal Springs Reservoir, which is the bottom of the Filoli property. And as I mentioned, they had a habit of buying and building houses near their businesses. So this is a collective of the houses that they had owned. So on the left up there is Empire Mine Cottage in Grass Valley. That was their first home here. And then they built their home in San Francisco. I think it was next on the right, the Webster Street house, which is still there today. In the middle is their home in Monterey. They built that when Maud was living in Ireland and coming back and forth with her young children, and they wanted a beach house, of course. And then they bought They had Madrone, which is the house next to the winery. Actually, if you go to St. Helena, the Chase Winery is still there, and it is actually, there are 3 plots still there of the original Bourne family wines. So Sarah Chase was William Bower's sister, and the Chase family still has a winery there today. Delicious old vine Zinfandels. But the story I wanted to share particularly is the Muckross House. Some people have mentioned that they've been to Muckross House in Ireland. Does anyone, how many people have been there, have heard of it? A few hands, yeah. Muckross House is their house as well. They bought this house. This was a hunting lodge, very famous because Queen Victoria visited it. It also made them bankrupt, which is what put it for sale. And then William Bowersborn bought it, and he bought it for his daughter as a wedding present. And it's really wonderful in our archives because we have these great, daughter-father letters back and forth where he said, I want this to be a working estate. This is great. This is a great opportunity for you. And she's like, Dad, it's not really going to work out. This is really hard to do, to run a house. And they went back and forth. He sent money for years. Unfortunately, Maud passed away at an early age in her 30s, actually on a trip to visit her father. And they gave Muckross House to Ireland. So it was the house plus 30,000 acres that they gave to Ireland. And it's still the largest park and home open to the public in Ireland today. And that leads us to Filoli, their final home. They built Filoli in 1915 to 1917 as a place to grow young. This was their retirement house. Mr. Bourne had gone to Cambridge, and he really loved this idea of a country estate. And so that's what we're modeled after, and still today, very much what we operate like. We're more like some of the houses in England than we are like houses in the US, because we have this entire working estate concept. Fight for your just cause, love your fellow man, live a good life. That was William Bowersborn credo. That's how he named Filoli. It's fight, love, live, Filoli. There is no Filoli family. Some people have said that. And it's really a great credo that has given us something to live into today. I think it's a really good motto even today. So this is the original the house when it was first built. For those who have been, this is the back side of the house, and it's great to see it, I think, in this pristine condition. It's a California eclectic style home. I mean, it's technically a Georgian mansion, but it has a Spanish tile roof. You have this Italian balustrade, so it's very much the things he loved and that he brought together in this home. The other thing that's really interesting about the house is that it's for the time, earthquake-proof. It is a brick and steel exterior with a steel and plaster interior so that they're separate. So if one falls, the other one doesn't fall. And it was very revolutionary. And in fact, when we did our seismic retrofit, we had very little to do. The only thing we had to do was prop up those chimneys. The steel that was used was not modern steel standards, but very, very good, well-done architecture and good construction. So it's a well-built home. It was also finely decorated. Maud and her mother, Agnes, were both aspiring decorators, and they did a wonderful job, but they did it in this very Gilded Age home feel. So it has this Gilded Age edge to it, but very much a collection of the things they loved. And so like the house, the interior reflected that as well, but more the soft side of what Agnes loved, which was beauty, nature, gardens, women. There are themes that you see all throughout the house. But I love these pictures. These were taken in the 20s, so by a studio called Milan, and they're just exquisite photos that show how finely it was decorated and how comfortably casual it was. In the background, those two drawings in the back are John Singer Sargent's, just kind of casually propped up on the wall. So it's really bringing together the things they love. They were world travelers, so they had this very worldly collection. So here are a few different views. This is the dining room around the 20s. The drawing room, the room where the ladies go to retire after dinner or have their tea in the afternoon. The library, one of my favorite rooms. The thing I love about the library, especially in this picture, is that all the chairs, most of the chairs there are like facing the window. You know, you can see that they came in here, they sat in the window, they read their books, they used the giant globe to plan their world travels. I mean, it's just, it very much feels a family lived in space. The last room to be finished was the ballroom, and by this point, William Bowers had had his first stroke, and he was no longer able to travel to his beloved Muckross in Ireland. So, his mother and daughter designed this ballroom in the color doesn't show it here, but it's in a Versailles color palette, a very watery green and gold, and very specifically designed because Agnes was a trained opera singer, and so she wanted a performance room for her operatic friends, and they actually helped found both the symphony and the opera in San Francisco. So they were very committed to music and again, music and beauty. And actually, if you come, what I like to tell people is check out the ceiling. It was, people think it was like later popcorn ceiling, kind of looks like that a little bit. It was early 20s acoustical ceiling. The sound in there is really perfect. Really great. They had 2 Steinway pianos. I mean, it was just a deep commitment to music. And a deep commitment to gardens. So the gardens and the bones of the gardens were put in by the Bourne family and very meticulously and specifically and persist today. So even the shape of the beds is the same today. You know, these things have lasted and stood the test of time. The bones of the garden are spectacular. Of course, the plants change, they grow, they shrink, they go away in storms, and we all adapt to that. But these bones were there originally and are still so beautiful today. That's the garden house off to the right, and you can see the house in the distance. The garden design was really a collaborative effort. Arthur Brown did the buildings in the garden. Bruce Porter did some of the bed layout. But I think the real hero here is Isabella Warren. So Isabella Warren was originally a florist. She's pictured on the right. In the middle is William Bowers' sister Ida. Born, but Isabella and her sister, and we don't know this for sure, but I'm pretty sure that's her sister on the left. Can't you tell? Don't you think they look like? It says unknown woman, but she and her sister ran a florist, and so it would make sense that this is her sister with Ida there. Kind of like Marilyn and Maureen, you can tell your sisters, so I think that's here. Isabella really had this reputation as being a plants woman. She knew her plants, she knew her plant palette. She's the one who did a lot of the original plantings during the Bourne era. She actually worked with both the Bourne family and the second family, the Roth family. So she worked on the estate for a number of years. She's probably most well known for designing Hearst Castle gardens. So she's also those designers. And I love to give the shout out to my fellow women horticulturists out there in the world. So she was really inspirational. Also important when you tell the story is the story of the staff. The staff were largely an immigrant staff from all over the world. At any given time, we have the census data. There were 5 to 7 languages spoken on the property. Hungarian, Italian, Swedish immigrants from all over the world. And a lot of times it was husband-wife teams, as you see here, working on the estate. At the peak, there were 65 staff on the property. Which at one point was the same number of staff we have today. It was like some magic number that persisted. We have a few more than that now. But the staff are really critical to keeping a place like this alive. You know, it can't be a husband and wife couldn't do it. And meanwhile, the Bournes were living out their country estate dream here. They really lived in the property as a country estate. You have, they brought their, friends and families in. I'm sure it was Maud's family, friends, and kids, and people that they grew up with came to play croquet on the lawns. I mean, it's just like the dream, right? And of course, that dream includes horses. We're in Woodside. If you know about Woodside, it's very much horse country still today. And that's the granddaughter, little Rosie Vincent, there on a horse at a horse show, which is just adorable. Toward the end, the Bournes were not in good health, and so Ida really helped to take over the management of the property and also entertaining. This house was built for entertaining. It's their last home. They're going to have fun, and so Ida's one of her final events that she hosted there was the Drunks Dinner. So this was to celebrate the end of Prohibition, and that's what they called it. The invitation called it the Drunks Dinner. It was a fantastic, can you imagine going to this dinner party? They said their goal was to drink the cellar dry, and each guest there, they had someone write like a poem about them, and they had these little characters of the guests. I mean, it was quite the dinner party, which I have fantasies about recreating one day. So this is the house alive and lived in, and that's what it was really intended. They both passed away, and in the same year, within 3 months of each other, and because Maud had passed away, their grandchildren lived in Ireland. A lot of their estate was owned by the bank while it was being sorted out, and so they sold the house, and they sold the house fully furnished. The bank and the family did in 1937. Well, we all know what was happening in the 30s. It was not the best time in America. Who buys this dramatic estate fully furnished? And the answer was the Roth family. So the Roth family was Matson Shipping Company. And the one thing that was doing well in the 30s was shipping. And Bill Roth had taken over the company and was really making a name for himself at that time by the Hawaiian connection. He was Hawaiian. He was born and raised in Hawaii. And he built the Royal Hawaiian Hotel and started the cruise line, the Hawaiian cruise line between. So they were doing shipping, but his interest was he became a hotelier, he became a cruise line manager, and he and his wife, they actually had a home in Woodside, but they were looking for a grand place to entertain, which is what the Bournes had built this house for. So they're heading into, they have 2 twin daughters, Lurleen and Brennis, and their son Billy, and they're heading into a very important time, and they needed a big house because it was the twins' debut ball. And so they bought the house and hosted their twins' debut ball at the house, which is a really magnificent use of that ballroom as well. And it wasn't just their twin daughters, their granddaughters also had debut balls there over the years. So it was really a thing to come to the Roth house for parties and debut balls. To go along with that, Mrs. Roth gathered a really eclectic group of staff and partners. Tony Duquette did all of her parties. Gene and I were talking about Tony Duquette. And so more is more was his motto. And if you haven't seen the Tony Duquette book, it's fantastic. It's so beautiful. But he did all these parties with this grand decor, and this starts to give you, we get in color now, so you can start to see the colors of the house and the color palettes of the house. But look how magnificent that flower arrangement is. And I've got to tell you, I mean, that's probably about 12 feet tall. Like this is like no joke in the size of things. Other stories around the staff are about staff that she brought in, and their staff was much more diverse and inclusive. And so she had a Japanese butler named Takichi Taga, and the sad part of this story is that this is during World War II. So the Taga family was taken to a Japanese internment camp, and Mrs. Roth had to help participate in that. It was a very challenging time. The Taga family stayed there for a couple of years, as many families did, and she brought him and the family back into her employment when they came back and bought them an apartment in the city. But you never, the family never quite recovered from that. That's a real setback from coming from being the house butler. That's a very prestigious position at that time. She also had Kilo as her Chinese cook, and this was still, and it actually lasted a very long time. The Chinese Exclusion Act was very much in discussion at that point. Chinese immigrants were technically not allowed at all, and so she hired Kilo. She helped him when they were raising their family. All of Kilo's children went to college that they helped with, and so she was really including diverse staff in her home. And you can see here, Key's out at the party. He's a celebrity. He's an early celebrity chef right here with the Kilo, and he's renowned. I mean, people who live locally are like, oh, I had one of his cakes one time back when I was a little girl. Like people tell these great stories about Kilo. And of course, they made their own changes to the house. Bill Roth had a stroke, and the story was that he needed a pool for therapy. I'm not sure that's all the pool was for. I think that there were other forces there. I'm sure the kids really enjoyed having the pool as well. But this is early. I mean, I think we don't really think about that having a pool at your home was a new thing at this time. This was revolutionary. They also had one of the first in the region. It was kind of touted in the same article. This is a picture from Time magazine, and it was touted that they also had their own wet bar in the living room, and so that was like new, that you served yourself drinks. So it's kind of fun to think about that. And then and then again, the garden, coming back to the garden, both Agnes Bourne and Lurleen Roth were gardeners. They helped start garden clubs. Each of them started a garden club. One started the Hillsborough Garden Club, the other started Woodside Atherton Garden Club. So very committed to garden. They were both flower arrangers, but particularly Mrs. Roth, most of her changes at the property were in the garden. She had a very heavy influence in the garden. She was the one who built out the cut flower gardens that we have today. She loved carnations, so she had carnations in production, so they could always have carnations in the house. And she actually went a step further and was, I think, probably a pretty good plantsman herself, because she worked with people like Toichi Demoto and Demoto Nursery. Toichi Demoto is perhaps the greatest camellia breeder that we know. It's one of these, again, hidden stories, because Demoto Nurseries was the largest nursery in the area until the Japanese internment situation. So he lost that nursery and lost some of the ground that he had gained in the breeding program. And he, but he worked with her, and a lot of the camellias that he bred are still at Filoli today. We have an enormous camellia collection, which has been beautiful this year, as you can imagine, and nobody's seeing it. So we're taking lots of pictures, but that's another way that she really worked with the community. And then toward the end of her time at Filoli, she worked with May Arbogast. I think some folks were talking about living in Berkeley, and May was a professor at the University of Berkeley in landscape architecture, and she was one of the people who convinced Mrs. Roth not to sell the property. When she was thinking about what to do with the property, there was talk of a golf course, there was talk of lots of things happening there, and it was May who said, this is really special, you really want to think about this. In my opinion, this is the Wisley of the West. Which I think is a really a lovely compliment if you've been to Wisley. So that actually, May was influential in the final decision, and Mrs. Roth ultimately agreed. And I love this quote as well. she's always felt that such a place should be a center of cultural and horticultural activities. So that, along with the Born Credo, is what we hope to live into today. You know, fight for a just cause, love your fellow man, live a good life, and being a center of cultural and activities. So in 1975, so we're coming up on our 50th year as well, Lurleen gave the house and garden and about 125 acres to the National Trust for Historic Preservation. And the National Trust, if you don't know about them, they're also a nonprofit but based out of DC. They own 28 sites and manage lots of buildings and properties around the country. And this slide shows you, how diverse the different homes that they own. They have several different kinds of relationships. Some of the houses and gardens they directly manage, some like ours they own but we independently manage, and some are completely separately managed but they have standing partnerships, preservation-based partnerships with those organizations. So that's great to have such a wonderful national partner. So where does that leave us today? So Filoli today, we've been doing some, I think, really fun things. We just finished updating our core values of being welcoming and inclusive. We want everybody who comes to feel like this is just the place for them. We really want to be innovative and collaborative, but importantly, we're stewards of this place. We see ourselves as stewards of this place for future generations. Some of this you heard earlier, but we are a very large property. So we have the 124 acres that's owned by the trust, but then we independently own additional acreage, and I'll show you in later pictures. And if you've been, you can stand in the back of Filoli, and we own everything that you can see, which is a lot to manage. And we're really isolated, so it's really an independent city. So we're a nonprofit where we have a board of directors. We have about 85 staff now, and each year we have about 400,000 visitors, and that's new. When I started in 2016, we had about 125,000 visitors. So we're really increasing our visitor base, and a lot of that visitor base, it's a combination. It's local folks, but more than, you can see over there, 45% of our visitors are coming from more than 20 miles away. They're tourists, so we're really attracting tourism. We're very diverse. We're as diverse as the Bay Area, which is important to us. We want to make sure that, again, everybody feels welcome, and also that means more people are coming, which is great. And about a third of our visitors have families. They hear about us largely through the media. We do a lot of media work, and I don't know if you saw it, but we were in the Antiques Roadshow in January. Did anyone see that? Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that was great. It was a really great coup for us to be on there. It was like such a California day, though, because it was June and it was like 100+ degrees, which just never happens. And there was a fire down the road, so there was smoke, and the fire was at the PG&E plant, and so the power was off, and so it was like, really? Now we need an atmospheric river and it'll be complete, right? and it all worked out great. I mean, I don't think you could really tell it was that desperate from the pictures. They did an amazing job, and you can go back and look at it if you want. We also, we work a lot with our local media. We have some really great media partners and get the stories out. But my little thing I'm gonna sneak and share with you is that we were actually just voted, don't tell Paul Redman, but we were just voted the world's greatest botanical garden. Yeah, I know. Thank you. It's a kind of odd competition. It was there's a TV show based out of Florida that's 18 years running that has the world's greatest random thing. So it's the world's greatest ice cream shop, the world's greatest chocolate factory. So we got voted the world's greatest botanical garden. And I think it was a little bit because we have this, and it's very much a U.S.-based thing, but I think it's because we have this worldly feel that we represented, a lot of different things in one location, so we're very proud of that. Also, we hear a lot from people that the way that people know us the most is that we are a place where things were filmed. So this is the game with Michael Douglas, and you can see him lounging in the library, which I just love that picture. We also were the location for Heaven Can Wait. They were on site for months when they filmed Heaven Can Wait. The Joy Luck Club, the Wedding Planner, George of the Jungle. I just actually talked to someone and said, I came because I watched George of the Jungle during the pandemic, so it's still persisting. But what we're most known for is the Dynasty House. So we're that flyover scene in the beginning of the Dynasty House, and the pilot was filmed at Filoli. Most of it was done in LA, but we're still the iconic house of Dynasty. So we don't do a lot of films today because we have to close for such a long time, but we do a lot of commercials. So what we're most known for in our community is a place for respite and reflection, you know, and beauty. And during the pandemic, that was just so important for people to have a place to escape. What we also are known for, and what we hope you come and participate in, is a place of gathering with friends. It's just a great way to just get out and enjoy. And if you're garden focused as you are, of course, it is a wonderful place to come because we can grow so many things. When you come, if you haven't been, we have an incredible gift shop that's located in the historic garden carriage, and we sell plants as well. My office is over there on the left, and you know, I don't actually have a picture in here of our wisteria. We have an amazing wisteria collection, so that's over on the left on the building, and that's my office to the left there. So wisteria is one of our major collections as well. We have a cafe, the Quail Cafe. We just partnering with a new vendor, which we're really excited about. And we now are our own bar. So that's been very popular, as you can imagine. And we were talking earlier about this as well. We do events. We have some weddings, but mostly we do this kind of an event, you know, a really intimate gathering inside. This is in the garden house, and really taking advantage of that indoor-outdoor beautiful feel. But as you all know, what we're most known for is a garden. We are, above all, a garden. 70% of our audience say they come to see the gardens. Historically, we've been known as a spring garden. We have a lot of daffodils, one of our largest collections. We also do an amazing tulip display. We have cherries on the property, and spring just goes on and on and on. And we try to layer in our plantings so that we have this kind of, you know, feel. This is late spring, obviously, so we have sort of late winter, early spring, late spring. We drag that out as long as we can, but it's just we do beautiful displays and display plants. We're a great summer garden as well. We have the pool and plantings around the pool. We have a rose garden, but I included this image just to show you the beautiful Bourne gate. This door is from another one of their homes, and they brought it to Filoli when they built. And you know, I think it's just a spectacular example of this blending of architecture and gardens, and that's what you get at a historic garden. We also have our natural lands, the meadows and all of our natural lands, and we've been opening up in the evenings in the summer so you can really enjoy sitting out in the summertime. It's one of the few places in the Bay Area that you get real fall. Not every place has fall. If you're an East Coaster like I am, I kind of miss fall. And we have it there with those are beautiful Japanese maples up against the house. But you know, that comes with watering, but we love having that beautiful fall. And we've added a few new elements. We just opened the historic vegetable garden. We fully renovated and opened the historic vegetable garden. Had never been open to the public, but had been maintained for 40 years. The staff of the Filoli garden staff maintained it as a vegetable collective. So they have been maintaining it and using it, you know, in a real low-key kind of way. And we all took the bounty from it, and then we thought we should open this to the the public. And it has been so amazing to see people's interest in it. Again, timing with the pandemic was really good because people's interest in gardening has returned. And so people, we try to plant different and unusual things along with the common vegetables so people can see themselves in the vegetable garden and see things that have come from different cultures and different backgrounds. We also, 5 years ago, started a holiday program. So we do a holiday light show. This was our very popular light tunnel this year that we stole the idea from Longwood Gardens, shamelessly. So we're very happy to have that, have that partner. That was another thing I was saying. The gardens are all such good friends, and we share ideas, and that's what makes us all better. And that's, I think, very indicative of plant people. We always share plants, right? That's what it's all, you did today. That's what it's all about. So we all travel and meet each other and see what everyone's doing. Holidays for us is a time for gathering, and people have made this into their holiday event. We sell mulled wine, we have music, it's just a nice place to go. We light the gardens, we decorate the house, so each room is fully decorated. We have 20 different trees in the house, which is really great. I want to tell you a little bit more about what we're doing in the house as well right now. We're trying to return to this Gilded Age feel. So the house was purchased by the Roths, fully furnished, so they used all the Bourne furnishings, but when they gave it to the trust, it was empty. So we've spent years recollecting, and I tell people we're in our third wave of collecting now, because we're really using those historic images that I showed you earlier to bring back the decorative arts and the things that the Bournes would have had and that the Roths collected along the way as well. So this is an example of how, we're also moving away from that you can't touch anything feel. We're trying to invite people into the space more. So even though we have little low ropes there, we have things you can touch. We have things that are in the space. We're integrating plants. If you look at any of those historic photos, they have plants and flowers and cut flowers, and so we're bringing that back into the house. That's a little bit against museum standards, but our collection isn't such that that's going to be a problem. So we're bringing that all back. This is a room that we renovated 2 years ago now. It's the Gentleman's Lounge, and I know everyone says it's pink though, but pink was a masculine color then. This would have been a very bold pattern, but we had lost this wallpaper, and we found a scrap about that big on the back of another wallpaper, a more modern wallpaper. And we were able to peel it off, and we worked with an artist to redraw it. We had black and white pictures only, so we worked with an artist to redraw it, and we got it printed in London. So we were able to restore this to its original intention. So it's not exact, but it's its original intention, and that's what we're doing throughout the house. Also, this is a great picture because it shows that what our other plan is. That poker table on the left, Mr. Bourne was famous for his poker games. You can sit down and play. We have instructions on how you can play poker, and so kids and families can sit and play a card game. The billiards table for special events, we let our donors play billiards. So it's more alive, I think, in the house. And then here's the library today, and you can see we're kind of moving back into that picture to bring in more comfortable furniture and just make it a warm place. And what we're really looking for now is help, actually, with decorative arts. So we have a list, and we just launched this on our website, of the lost treasures of the house, the things that were there that we want to bring back. And the Bournes were amazing. I didn't mention this before, but they were patrons of California artists. So this is a Mary Curtis Richardson, and she's of course very well known today, but they were her original patron. So they commissioned works, they paid her for her art, and we'd love to get some of that early California art back. This is a Tiffany clock. They loved clocks. They had 2 or 3 in every room. So bringing back Tiffany clocks, bronze sculptures, very bold Majolica pottery. So making it really, and you can see how everything's like very garden, women, feminine, organic, and that's the feel of the house that we're bringing back. Some other things that we're doing today are around programming. So I mentioned earlier the Ramaytush Ohlone people, and this is our official land acknowledgement that we share with everyone to acknowledge that they were the first peoples of the land, and that there was a village site on our property. So that is something that is important today, and we're partnering with Jonathan Cordero of the Ramaytush Ohlone Association, and he is the head of that association and also the head of the Ramaytush tribe today, which is a teeny tiny tribe, an unrecognized tribe, but they exist today, and we want to partner with them. And he is our official Indigenous advisor, so he's an extension of our staff. And another partner that we have is the Cafe Ohlone, and I love this story. This is a great plant story. So I mentioned way earlier that the Ramaytush were agrarians. Well, this is dogbane. And dogbane was used in ceremony and in basket making and some other practical uses in their culture, practical and cultural uses. And dogbane would not have been a native plant on our property, but we have a giant dogbane patch there today, which is very clearly because it was cultivated by the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples. And so we partnered with this group, the Cafe Ohlone, who does wild collecting on our site and also ceremony on our site. So they were able to come and collect the dogbane, and they used it for ceremonial work and for sharing with their community, which is like just really important, I think, and so fulfilling that it's come full circle. We also do a lot of events. We have cultural events. We have a performance series in the summer of evening events. We're open on Thursdays for summer nights. We have a new perspective on continuing education and volunteerism that we've combined together to call service learning, where we do a project basically every month, and instead of doing a class to teach you about pruning and having volunteers, we've combined those together, for example. So you come out, you learn how to prune for an hour and a half, and then we have help with a pruning project. We also do it in the house. We just had a group come out, learn about book conservation, and then they helped us dust and turn the bookshelves in the library. So it's a way for us to get projects completed, but it's also a way for us to give back to the community. And we do those for 4 or 5 days through a weekend so that people can participate on the weekend as well. We try to be a year-round garden. This event just happened. It was a traditional spring Chinese event, so it was really beautiful in the daffodil fields in the back. We caught a sunny moment and we're able to do this. It's the Hanfu Society, and we try to do something every season and year-round. So you can see here we have all kinds of events that we do from Hispanic heritage. We did tablescaping for holidays this year, which was like one of my favorites. I love tablescaping, and we brought in different cultural groups to do tablescapes. We had the Jewish Community Center come in and do a Hanukkah table, and we had the Mormon Church came in and did a Christian table, but then we also had a Lunar New Year table, and we had a Kwanzaa table, and so it was really a way for people to share their cultures and through food, which I think, right, that's the best way to share anything. And we do exhibitions. We do artist exhibitions. In 2020, we had Christine Mays, who was a wire art artist and does figurative art. She was very popular. And then this year, we're bringing out Yoko Kubrick, who does these beautiful marble, large-scale garden sculptures. It's just spectacular. And I can't wait to see her at Filoli. It's going to go so well together. We have a series of youth programs that we do today. This is a way we give back. During the pandemic, we received a grant to evaluate our education programs, and what we learned is that we were doing elementary programs, as many people are, but what was being left out in our community was preschool and high school. And so we launched a preschool program, and I'm so happy to say that through donor funding, we've expanded it from our pilot of 2 schools to 16 this year. And and it's fully funded, and it's an immersive program. So instead of just one visit, the preschool kids come 3 times. Some of them have their graduations there. Their families get a membership to come and visit Filoli, and these are all underserved kids. One of our partners is the Chinatown Community Center, and it's a trilingual school. So those kids are so great. We also just launched this year our pilot of the teen program, and it's very similar actually in structure. Multiple visits. One of their visits is around health and wellness. Kids are really struggling with mental health, and so we want to, again, that respite. We want to give them that place of escape and learn that there are places that they can go. And the other thing I love about this program is that we pay them to have an internship. So you can graduate high school with a paid internship, either in horticulture or hospitality. So it's really a great way, I think, to give back to the community. And we have our very famous, actually, internship program. We were doing internships programs before many gardens, where this is a 40-year program. So 45, I think it's coming up on. So we've had horticulture interns since the beginning, really, of Filoli, and we still continue that today. We've added in collections interns and learning and engagement interns and development and marketing interns, but our interns are just fantastic. And this is all funded, of course, through through contributions, through our donors. And like many places, we have an annual gala. And this year, our annual gala, if you want to come up, it's August 18th. And Jackie Spear, who just retired, is going to be our honoree this year. She just helped us get a huge grant. So we're very excited to honor her. And, making, again, that past to future connection, today I also want to honor our staff. We have such a talented and dedicated team at Filoli. A few years ago, as part of our strategic plan, our board committed to paying a living wage, minimum wage, and that's a big deal in our area. It was $28 at the time. So our entry-level staff all made $28. It's now $31. So it sounds like a lot of money, but it's a lot of money to live there. Thank you. Yeah, it was a big deal. And a big deal for our board. But here are the things that happen because of that. My turnover is down from 50% to 8%. People stay. Isn't that what we want? I have 5 babies now at Filoli. People are having kids and families. They can afford to do that. And isn't that what we want to do to give back? And people, all of our staff don't complain about their jobs. They share with everyone that they think they work at a great place. And isn't that what we want? And this all, of course, it adds to our bottom line, but what we're able to give back through our mission, I think, is so important. And it's a big deal. And it was a big deal in the museum industry. I think there's this notion that museums, we do it for the passion. People call it the passion tax. And of course, yes, I do it for the passion, absolutely. But we all deserve to live, and I think that's important to remember. So that was a very progressive idea that our board had that we were able to follow through on, and it was wholly supported by everyone. And we're able to continue it. So what's our future? I'm sad to report, I kept this slide in. We lost both of those trees. It's one of my favorite images, and we lost both of those old oak trees. And someone generously offered to give me an article about losing old trees. Oh, there you are in the back. Yeah, thank you. But this is the beauty of Filoli. It's not just the house and garden; it's the place. And of course, this is a cycle of life as well. These oaks are aging. It's something to remember. One of my partners, which is a Rockefeller home in upstate New York, they just did, I think, a really revolutionary plan of intentional tree replacement. So in their plan, they would have already cut them down and replaced them. So this notion of heritage trees is something that we all really need to challenge, because if you let all your trees be the same age, then they all die at the same time. So we have to be really careful about that. And also, planting, we're a formal garden, planting trees in pairs, they have to be replaced in pairs. So it's something that we're thinking about, especially as we think about things like sustainability. So in our future plans, we have a commitment to sustainability. I think a lot of people, in sustainability conversations, start talking about carbon tax and reducing our carbon footprint and carbon sequestration, and all that's really important. And then they also talk about solar and wind and where your energy comes from, and that's important too. But we were talking about this at dinner last night. It's not one of those things. There's not one answer to it. So for us, sustainability is, of course, we're going to be addressing some of the things in our infrastructure as we can. Our house was not built to be sustainable. In fact, it was built by William Bowers Bourne to show all of the new technologies and all of the ways you can use energy and water. But we're balancing that. So for us, it's more about the bigger picture of natural lands management. We own everything you see in this picture. This is the Santa Cruz Mountains, and this is what we have to manage. We have, I was telling everyone earlier, we have sudden oak death on our property. So we're losing a lot of this tree canopy is oak, so we're losing that. So we have to get into ecosystem management. What comes next? We lose all of our oaks. It wasn't natural. What comes next after the oaks? We have to think about, with that biodiversity, we have 5 unique ecosystems on our property. That's a lot of plant diversity, which goes with a lot of animal diversity. So how can we contribute in that planning to ecosystem management? We care a lot, obviously, about water and fire. Those are 2 big discussions with us. We're a high watered garden. That's how we can have fall, is that we water those trees. But how do we balance that need with the water availability, and how do we manage fire? This is all fire load. You might have heard, one of our fires was the CZU fire, which is Santa Cruz Mountain fire. It started just over that ridge to the left and went the other way. So, it could easily come this way, and that's very close. So looking at how we manage that, and one of the answers of management is actually agriculture. And goats. I mean, you can't, look at that guy. We brought in goats last year and are starting a goat management program. So this was, again, this was agricultural land, but it wasn't really, it's not wheat kind of agricultural land. It was sheep and goats and, logging and tanning and different kinds of agriculture. So we're going to bring back diverse agriculture to help us in lands management. And that will also help us create these wildlife corridors, that we have a lot of wildlife. We're in the middle of 20,000 acres of preserved land. We actually saw a mountain lion during the day just a few days ago. So nature is very close, and so we want to allow that. We want to, whatever we do, we want that to continue, and keeping those. And then also 60% of the land we own is redwoods, secondary growth redwoods. So they're not primary growth, but they're still big guys. And we want to provide access to that and to preserve those natural lands. And all while doing that, we want to keep an eye on that historic core. And people talk about the historic core. Ours is actually literally the historic core. It's this long linear garden. So you see the house, and then those are the formal gardens, and then behind that is the greenhouses, the historic greenhouses. So this is our historic core that we're really protecting and managing and being good stewards of, but then trying to make sure, agricultural land is all around it, and that helps with this fire protection. So we want to maintain that agricultural land. We want to make sure because we have to choose ecosystems now, we're going to plant oak meadows with oaks that are tolerant of sudden oak death. And that way, that gives us a chance of managing wildfires should it come close. So we're making really conscious decisions about that. And we've called in help as well. So, wrong button. There we go. We have brought in a team of folks to help us with our site master plan. The primary on it is Thomas Waltz of Nelson Bird Waltz out of New York, who is very great at doing these big grand estates. And then they're partnering locally with Architectural Resources Group of Naomi Murillo. And the combination of them have been amazing to work with. So we completed our site master plan last year, and it was really built on these 2 premises of giving greater public access and preservation, making sure that we have those 2 things in great balance. They did reports for us like a natural lands management report, historic structures report, and the cultural landscape report, which is where some of the stories I shared earlier came from. And this is our new site master plan. You can't see that, I know. But the point is this right here, just that little strip right there is the historic core. So that's what people think of as Filoli today. And so we want this to be the Filoli concept, that it's much bigger than that little strip of historic core. And we have some starter projects that we're working on. We have a handful of projects that we've started with. If you've been to Filoli, most notably our entrance down there, I'll tell you about that. Our first project is this project, the Ballroom Terrace. Outside of the ballroom, it was beloved by both the Bournes and Roths and hasn't been used since then. So we are bringing that back to life. It has these amazing views. It's also a lawn area under trees, which we don't need to be managing. That's not really a great idea. So we're turning it into this bluestone patio. It'll be, it's all about drainage, low irrigation. We're changing the plant palette back to a Mediterranean plant palette that was there originally. And this gives us a gathering space, an event space, expands our use of the property, but then also makes sure that we're, meeting those sustainability goals. That entrance I mentioned, we're going back to this kind of pastoral entrance feel of the country estate. And then another early project is that we have a barn out in the Redwood area, and we want to put an amphitheater there. So a Redwood amphitheater back in the, starting to get people to move into the back areas a little bit more. So that's our future, and that is my presentation. So thank you all for hosting me today. If we have a minute, I'd love to field questions. Jean, do you think we have a minute? Yeah, we have a minute? Yeah, let me go here first, yeah. So right now there aren't buses, but in the future plan there are. Buses is definitely part of our future. Right now we have a stair-free route, but not a fully accessible route because we're a historic garden. But most of our buildings are accessible, and the new Ballroom Terrace is going to create a new accessible entrance to the house, which we're really happy about, so that you can get to see a lot without having to walk very far, which is our goal. Over here, yeah. Oh, yeah, in addition to losing those. Actually, okay, so a couple of things. First of all, fire mitigation is a big deal. We have been investing about $200,000 a year for the past couple of years in dead tree removal, which we did around the houses and buildings first and kind of pushed back. So when the rains came, that area was pretty good. We didn't lose a lot of trees in those main areas, although it did seem like every time a tree fell, it fell on a power line. So but the site is on a slope, so it's really well drained. It's really well graded. I mean, hats off to those men grading without any equipment back in the day. I think they do a much better job than people do today. I mean, everything drains. It's really great, and we've held up pretty well. Other than we're 650 acres in the middle of 20,000 acres on the end of a line, power line. So we are the last people to get service. So we've lost power. I think we're up to 9 to maybe it's 11 days that we've lost power. We've been closed most of those days because it's just the weather's just been terrible. But people are really resilient. They get that sunny day, they come back out, and my staff have been just absolutely amazing. The garden's cleaned up like that. So we've been pretty good.
What is your water source?
Thank you for asking that. So we're on the Crystal Springs Reservoir, which was Mr. Bourne's Spring Valley Water Company, so Crystal Springs Reservoir is now the reservoir for San Francisco. And both the Hetch Hetchy water flow and Crystal Springs flow come into it. So we're at the edge of all the water, right? And Mr. Bourne built in, we have actually a very weird situation, but Mr. Bourne built in a clause that we have a dedicated trunk line to that. So we pay for it, but it's a dedicated trunk line. So we have primary access to it. We don't want to use that. right? So what we have been doing is adding, we have wells, and we've been adding wells to our property in something that we learned. We hired a hydrogeologist to come out, and something that I learned, I come from the east, and it's limestone, and you got to drill through it, and then you get the water, right? So it's not the same here. Those of you who are from here know that, but what I didn't know is that the aquifers often run in a linear fashion, and so you can, you know, drill here and get this aquifer and drill 20 feet over and hit an entirely different aquifer. And so the place where we have 2 of our wells, we actually just realized we can add 3 more and tap different aquifers, which sounds like we're using more water. That's not our intent. Our intent is to never drain an aquifer. Our intent is to balance them and use them, you know, so that we're making sure that we're not draining the system. And then also part of this plan is returning some of that agricultural land into flood land during the flood season so that we can refill our own aquifers. So we use a combination. We actually have 6 or 7 wells plus the backup city water. But we use a lot of water. I won't say we're very water conscious, but we're trying to get better at that. And one more in the back. Right.
And they were places that people went to just wander around and look at the labels. And they have become what they are now, and all of the directors are looking for.
Yeah.
Places of immersion and education and environmental planning and places for people to learn. And I also think at the same time we bring people in, it's like what the Wildlife Federation did with baby seals. You fall in love.
Right.
And you want to preserve it, you want to protect it, you want to manipulate it. And it is a win-win situation across the board.
Yeah, it is. Thank you.
And so many of them are going that way. I'm sure Longwood teach a lot to be. I know the directors that I know for 50 years are.
Yeah, it's that new shift. And if everyone couldn't hear, I think you're absolutely right. This new shift. I think gardens are re-becoming community centers in the community. And 100 years ago, if you look at New York Botanical Garden, that was where everybody went, right? That was the thing to do, the place to go. And that I think is what's, the wave has come back again. The green wave, as we like to think of it, and people do care, and we want them to be. We want to be a place of education and developing that passion, and a place to make connections too. Is also, it's so intergenerational, it's so multicultural. It's just a place where everybody can find themselves, and I think that's really important. Thank you. All right, thank you.
Okay,